Hello lovelies, how are you all doing today? I hope you are well. I hope you're better than me. That cold, oh my goodness, it's walloped me. Today I was planning to be cooking and chatting at the same time, but I think my head is a little bit fuddled from this cold, so I'm all set up. I've got all my pans, I've got pans everywhere, ready to start, but I thought I'll chat first and then cook. I don't think the two will work together. So last time you saw me, I'd just done my weekly shopping. Excuse me, there are going to have to be lots of sips today. And yeah, I was feeling pretty rum, but even so, that evening I made a massive curry. I think it's probably, 6 portions it turned into. Oh, it was so good. So it had chickpeas, white beans, cocoa sophie I think, a tin of black beans, sweet potato, some of the tomatoes from my neighbour, some peas, chuck everything in, chock. And yeah, made masses of it, and then when I came to eat it, steamed about 1/3 of that broccoli. So there's a mountain of broccoli on top of it. It was gorgeous, and I'm so glad I did it, because the next day, so we're now 3 days later, there have been 2 intervening days. Yeah, the next day, oh my goodness, I got up in the morning, I felt like I'd slept under a bag of bricks. I felt rougher than the bottom of a budgerigars cage. It's just like, ugh. So I had a really slow day. Most of it spent on the sofa, under a quilt. I did a few little bits and bobs. I made up a couple of parcels. I didn't even have the energy to go to the post office. Anyway, so yeah, it was pretty much a write-off. And then yesterday it was like, right, okay, come on, I've got to get back on with things. So I hopped on a bus, Gus, I went over to the next village, got my will, finally done my will now. So I signed it, had, my 2 witnesses, so that's done, tick. Whilst I was there, I went to another business where I was just picking up some paperwork to do with insurance. There are a couple of shops over there that have quite good second-hand books, so I went and had a snoop to see if I could find stuff for my shop, because thank you everybody who's ever ordered from me. But yeah, there's been quite a flurry of orders recently. A lot of books have been sold, which is great. So I definitely needed to restock. So I managed to find, I think, about 8 more books for my shop. I haven't done anything with them yet, haven't photographed them, partly because this rainy weather continues, this dull, horrid weather. But they are sitting in a pile waiting for me to clean them and photograph them and what have you. So that was a really good day yesterday, but by the time I got back, this, like I said, it's just a cold, but by the time I got back, I was really flagging, and I thought, well, I'm just going to have curry again, I don't care. So I had curry and broccoli again. So I had that on the night when I had my sort of duvet day. So I've had curry 3 nights on the trot. All the broccoli's gone, and about 1/3 of the Savoy cabbage have gone. But yeah, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Is when you, I know some of you do too, but when you cook everything from scratch, when there's no such thing as a takeaway menu, etc., I think it's really important that there's always something in the freezer in terms of a ready meal where we've done some batch cooking, so that when we're feeling lousy, or like yesterday I came back and I just felt tired, I was drenched, strip into warm snuggly clothing, yes, there's food already prepared, and all I had to do was chop up a bit of cabbage and the broccoli and put them in the steamer, reheat the curry, I'm good to go. Hallelujah. So I am going to get on with a load more cooking today. What's on the menu today? I'm going to make 2 big pots of fasolada. I'm going to do whilst they're on the go in the steamer, I'm going to steam a load of broad beans. Then later on when they're cool, I'll peel them. I really don't like the skins. So that then later this evening I'll make the broad bean and pea risotto, which I'll have tonight. I'll have the risotto tonight, comfort food. The fasolada, I'll keep a couple of portions out for the next couple of days, but mostly it'll go into the freezer. And if I've got the energy with my leftover celery, I'll be making the carrot and celery soup with freezer carrots. So yeah, quite a lot to get on with. And I just thought, I don't think I can talk and cook at the same time, so I'll get on with that later. But yeah, I'm just championing the batch cooking for any of you who cook everything from scratch, because yeah, there's no way in the last couple of days I would have felt like cooking. And the really important thing when you feel lousy is to eat really good food rather than just thinking, I can't be bothered to cook, let's go and buy some junk. Anyway, so I hope I've done my body the world of good by having lovely food. The sunflowers have been brought through, they're on their last legs, poor things. They've done really well though. That's been well over a week. It's been, yeah, 10 days or so. But they need to be disposed of now. And it was weird because I brought them through to the kitchen and I thought, right, I'll chop them up small to go in the compost bin. Oh yeah, I don't have a compost bin. Still forget I don't have a compost bin. And the thing with cooking, just to say, is I eat everything. I don't peel. I don't really have vegetable peelings because I eat the skins. I use every little bit, and so with the broccoli, I've got a bit of stalk left. That will get chopped up fine today and it'll go into the stews I'm making. So yeah, waste not, want not. So yeah, I keep forgetting I don't have a compost bin. So they're just gonna have to go into rubbish. Oh, and also talking of allotments and things, I had, if you remember, I'd harvested all of Gary's lavender. Thank you, Gary. And that was in my old shed. But we've been having so much rain and the shed roof just leaks. So I thought, I'm going to have to just rescue the whole lot. So last week, so this is a good thing about so much juggling. The really great thing about having a buyer for my flat, apart from the obvious, I've got a buyer for my flat, but in terms of the ergonomics of day-to-day living, it's such a relief because I don't have to clean as much. I mean, I do basic cleaning, but I mean that thing of having the place immaculate for viewings, I don't have to worry about that. But also the swapping around of everything. So here I am in the kitchen and it's my desk, it's my study. More of that in a second, actually. So this whole thing had to be packed away and shoved into the wardrobe, out of sight, So I don't have to do all of that. But also, it means I can get on with processing the lavender. I can make mess. It's fine. I don't have to suddenly think, oh God, I've got a last minute viewing. Where am I going to put everything? So yeah, because of the rain and the leaking shed, I decided last week I would have to go and rescue the lavender. And I can't remember whether it took me 3 or 4 runs down there now, but all the lavender is back here. It's in bags everywhere, and it's snudged up to radiators and things like that because I've been putting the heating on in the morning for half an hour because it's been so chilly. I think it's the damp. I think it's just because it's been so foully damp. So all the lavender's back. because of that as well, this was quite a sort of a moment. I had a bit of a moment down at the allotment. Was it I can't remember, it was last Thursday or Friday. I took the shed key off my key ring and left it in a secret place because I have given my shed away. I've given it to the family that have taken over my plot. It's theirs now. I no longer have a shed, and there's a few bits and bobs in there that I've left for them. So I hope that I also left a roll of roofing felt in the shed. So hopefully they can get on with the roof repairs pretty pronto and can start enjoying the shed. And the thing is, they've got 2 little kids, so it's great to have a shed like that that's big enough, especially for the really, really, really little one. In the summer, if she's getting a bit fractious and needs a nap, she can go in the shed and have a nap, so mum and dad can carry on working the land. Yay! I'm chuffed about that. But it was a weird moment of letting go, really. As I wound that key off the key ring and put it in the secret place, and then I stood back and I looked and I thought, yeah, that's the end of that era. It was an odd feeling. It wasn't sad. It's hard to describe. It was more kind of just sort of like, oh, well, that's done now. That's finished. Anyway, so lavender's all here, and it hadn't got wet in the shed as such, but it just everything feels so damp at the moment. So it's drying beautifully now. It's back at the house, back at my flat, and so I can start doing a nightly processing. I'll probably do, I'm looking at, oh God, it's everywhere. I'll probably do about 1 hour each evening. I reckon there's about 30 hours worth of processing to do. So if I do an hour every night, it'll take me the entire month of October to do. There might be some evenings where I get on a bit of a roll with it and I decide to do 2 or 3 hours. I don't know, we'll see. But yes, that's kind of underway now too. It's weird how September just gone. I know we're always mentioning this thing about time goes so quickly, where did that month go? But so much of September was taken up with the flat in terms of agents in and out, then the energy certificate people, the photographer in and out, me going out and about and doing my flat hunting, being prepared for viewings, phone calls, emails. There's been a ton of time taken up with it, so in a way I'm just sort of regathering myself at the moment to say, okay, I missed out on a lot of work days because of that, so now how am I going to plan the next sort of 2 or 3 months to make the most of time to catch up on work that I haven't done, lavender bags, filming, all of that sort of thing. So yeah, I think when my head is a bit clearer in a couple of days, I might have to have a bit of a planning session to think, how am I going to fit everything in? Because there are ongoing things with the flat as well. So anyway, it's all good. Now, I was mentioning, I can't remember, I think I was mentioning it when I was in the video, when I was saying how I'm so happy to have found somewhere, and I was using a little tool. I'll come on to that in a second. But also, I mentioned in that video how the very fact that I'd gone on the market was probably a clue to a lot of people that, she must have found something because she's now racing to get on the market. Ironically, the place I'd found that I thought was going to be perfect, and this goes right back to the end of August, I really thought it was going to be perfect. And then I got to it and it turned out no. it wasn't right. Sorry, excuse me. It absolutely wasn't right. And it was a weird one because I built it up in my head. You know, when you're online looking at the photographs and the floor plan of a place. And for a good sort of 48 hours after having viewed it, I was trying in my head to make it work. I was trying to convince myself that it would work. And I sort of said to myself, look, if you're spending 48 hours trying to convince yourself about it, it's not going to work. It's not right. But actually, it's okay, because I'm glad that it gave me the push to get my flat on the market, because quickly after that, I saw the one that I have put my offer in. This whole process, I'm going to have to blow my nose. Excuse me a second. Oh, that's better, and top up my water. Yeah, just this process of flat hunting, and I thought I'd share some of it with you. You know, might help someone, I don't know. So I know there are a few people a bit disappointed that I didn't do any filming when I was looking at flats. It didn't feel appropriate to be honest. You know, when I'm going to look at what's going to be hopefully my future home, I need to concentrate. I needed to kind of not think about work, not think about making a video. I just need to be there and concentrate. So that's why I didn't show you any of the places. But yeah, the more I looked at, so I started off with a very, it was actually a really simple deal breaker list. The only deal breakers were it had to be on the ground floor with minimum steps. Like most houses are going to have a couple of steps up to the front door. That's fine. But certainly I don't want to be dealing with more than 5 or 6 steps. So ground floor, easy access, and a little bit of outside space. But the outside space has to be mine and private. So a lot of the flats that I saw that were, you know, really gorgeous properties, the garden space was communal. So yes, you can sit in the gardens and enjoy them, but I'm not allowed to touch them. I'm not allowed to do any growing. That would kill me inside, to be in a garden and I can't grow. Not only that, I have to pay a gardener. One place I looked at, only on paper, or when I say on paper, I mean online, and I just said no straight away. There was a £3,000 a year charge for the gardener. Like, why am I paying a gardener £3,000 for something A, I can do, and B, that I'm being denied to do? Anyway, so yeah, that was my only deal breakers, ground floor, and it must have a garden. But interestingly, the more properties I looked at, the more deal breakers came into the picture. And I think that's, we set out thinking that we know what we want. Have a pretty good idea, but it's only in the process of actually looking that things become apparent that weren't on my list initially that need to now go on the list. And one of the big things, I'm getting chilly, so I'm going to have to turn you off again and go and get a blanket or something. Hang on, sorry. As you were, just gone and grabbed my lovely crochet blanket from my cousin. I think it's just because I got this cold. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, the deal breakers. So what became apparent quite quickly is looking for a ground floor flat after living all the way up here, light. So my goodness, so many places. And that one that I thought was the one at the end of August, that was its issue as well. The light was so poor. It just felt really dark and pokey, and it wasn't particularly pokey, but it felt dark and pokey. So the deal breaker on light had occurred much earlier in the year. It's just on the photos of that one that I thought was the one. I don't know, they brightened the photos. I don't know quite how they've managed it, but it didn't look dark in the pictures. Anyway, So it became really obvious to me early on that I love the light. I've had so much of it up here, and I'm lucky because I've got dual aspect in terms of the windows. So whatever time of day it is, there is light coming into this flat. And also having the dual aspect windows means I can get a nice draft through when it's really hot. So going to a ground floor, it suddenly, it becomes quite an issue, or it's been an issue with quite a lot of the properties I looked at. And, you know, it's lovely to have, say, front gardens, back gardens, all that. But if the garden is too much and it's blocking out the light, no, thank you. So yeah, I was going to say it came as a bit of a surprise. It wasn't a surprise really, I suppose, but that quite early on it's like, no, I have to have light. But also for work, you know, whether it's photographing things, filming, today I've got the lights on because it's such a dreich day, sewing. I need light for my work, but I need light for my soul. I need light. So in a way, that was quite helpful because it narrowed some places down. Now the big thing for me in looking was, look, you know, in an ideal world, I would have found a 2-bed flat, and that would have been the answer to all my issues, because having a second bedroom would have been a case of, well, yes, of course, for guests, I'd like a guest bedroom, but more than that, for work, because I work from home. It would have been somewhere that I could have my sewing machine, sewing table, all my sewing supplies. It would have been somewhere that I can store my shop stock, but more than the stock, because I don't mind having the books in my living room because they're lovely. It's the packaging stuff. Oh my goodness, there's so much stuff. All the packing tape, and I buy it in bulk, so I've got rolls and rolls of packing tape. Envelopes, card envelopes, boxes of all sorts of sizes that I keep hold of. Long roll, thick big roll of parcel paper, rolls of bubble wrap. They're so bulky. This stuff takes over everywhere. And in my current flat, I've got bits in the wardrobe, bits under the bed, bits down behind the bed, bits in the kitchen here, bits in my bureau. So when I come to make up a parcel, if I get an order, I have to visit the wardrobe, visit under the bed, visit down the side of the bed, visit the bureau, visit the kitchen, get all my stuff together, take it into the living room, take my sewing machine off the sewing machine table, use that as my packing table, finish making a parcel up, put my sewing machine back on the table, put everything back in the wardrobe, under the bed. It's a palaver. I mean, it's a happy palaver, but it is a little bit of a palaver, and it probably adds 5 or 10 minutes extra time onto making a parcel. And you know, time is important and precious. So that was on my mind, and if I could get a second bedroom, I could have everything in one place. Because of course, when I bought this flat, little memory lane moment, when I bought this flat, I didn't have any of that stuff going on in my life, and I had no idea that that's how my life would go. So it wasn't ever designed for coping with all that business. So, a second bedroom would have been great. However, there's no way I could afford a second bedroom. Just no way. It was not going to happen. Having a garden, finding a ground floor flat is hard enough because it comes with a garden, and they tend to be the most popular flats for the obvious reason, you get a garden. So what I did then was and this is that little, I was mentioning, I'd sort of made a little tool for myself, and this is what really helped me, was I thought about all the different aspects of both my personal life and my work life. What does this home need to contain? Where do things need to be? And, at some point I won't be doing this work, so how will my life and my home be after, that's all over and I, chill out and retire? So it was thinking about things like all the packaging materials, being able to have somewhere where I could have everything in one space, not necessarily out all the time, but just have it, you know, the ergonomics of having it in one space so I can just grab a handful of everything. And so I started to think about it, right, okay, it's a one bed flat, you're going to have 3 rooms essentially, a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, obviously a bathroom, but I'm not going to work in the bathroom. So how do those rooms need to function, and you know, in terms of size, and that's what it pretty much all boiled down to, is the size, not of the overall property but of specific rooms. And early on I'd said to myself, I don't care if the bedroom is really quite small, so long as there's room for my bed in it and for having my clothes, that's fine. Because essentially, what do we do in a bedroom? Keep it clean. You know, how much of our waking time do we spend in our bedroom? Essentially, we go to the bedroom to go to bed and we get up in the morning and we get dressed. So it's sleeping and clothes. So yeah, I could actually manage with quite a small bedroom. If I had a big living room, I could use it almost like I use the studio space here. You know, I've got my work and I've got my sofa, my relaxation, I've got my books. But with the work thing, I don't really want to, if I'm sitting on the sofa reading a book, relaxing, and quite often when I read, I'll read a passage, I'll close the book for a few minutes and I'm just sort of gazing out and I'm thinking about what I've just read. I don't necessarily want to be looking at work, certainly not packaging materials. And the other thing is, as I was saying about, you know, packing up for viewings here, I use the kitchen as my study, really. I do a lot of work in here, I spend a lot of time in here, and actually, don't we all spend a lot of time in our kitchens anyway, you know, cooking, as I was just saying, you know, cooking everything from scratch. Almost every day I'm cooking. Almost every day, not when I've eaten poorly. Oh, poor me, I can't go on. That's for you, Paul. Oh, my tummy just rumbled, Borborigmus. Yeah, so there's all the, you know, cooking, washing up, socialising, if you're in the kitchen, chatting, nattering with a friend, working. So quite early in the hunt, I decided that the most important room in the house would be the kitchen, or flat, would be the kitchen, and I wanted a decent sized kitchen. The other thing about being in the kitchen is quite often it's the warmest room in the flat too, because of cooking. But also just simply things like the fridge and the freezer motors, they put out a little bit of heat. And yeah, if I'm sitting in here all day editing, sometimes what I've done in the past, say with the heating, is turn my other radiators off, I just have the little one on in the kitchen. And that's, I mean, it's a really tiny radiator, but it's enough to, you know, make this warm enough to work in. So anyway, that's the point I'm getting to. I'm so fuddle-headed, is that I knew early doors that the kitchen was going to be probably the most important room, and of all the rooms, I wanted the kitchen to be the one that was the biggest. I wanted space in the kitchen for, obviously, you know, my cabinets and my cooking and storing all my kitchen clobber, but I really wanted it to be somewhere where there's room for a table, and a good sized table, so that I can work in there, but not just work, I can do my parcel packaging in the kitchen. So would it be possible to create storage either in the kitchen, or is there a cupboard in the hall that's near the kitchen, so I can have a cupboard in the hall that's just for pack, you know, you get the idea. And actually, the more I thought about that, and the more I thought about my ergonomics of living and working, the more that made sense to me. And it actually helped in terms of cutting down on unnecessary viewings of properties. I didn't rule any property out completely, based on the kitchen, but almost, almost. I mean, there was one kitchen I saw maybe half the size of my current kitchen, barely big enough for the basic functions of a kitchen, never mind a study. You wouldn't ever be able to have that kind of time in the kitchen where, like, if I'm cooking and a friend is sitting here and we're chatting, I wouldn't have been able to fit a second person in the kitchen. And to me, that's kind of like, that's a bit of a heartbreaker actually, isn't it? I mean, think about the number of times for you guys when you've got friends over, when you're cooking and your friend is either sitting there at the table chatting or just sitting up on the counter, leaning against the counter chatting to you. It's that wonderfully social, it is the heart of the home, isn't it? It's the hub of the home. So yeah, that for me was, I ended up with 4 deal breakers in the end. Ground floor, must have a garden. Doesn't matter how small it is, just some outside, I should say outside space rather than garden. Ground floor, outside space, light, and a good sized kitchen. So yeah, that made the hunt easier. So any of you who are out doing your house hunting right now, gosh, I wish you so much luck. I think you probably have your list, your deal breaker list already, you know what you're after. But as you go to places to do your viewings and you come away and you say, no, it's not for me, have a think about why. Why wasn't it for you? And it might be something like the light. You might not put your finger on it while you're at the property, but later on you might think, and then hopefully that will help in your future viewings when you start to have a longer list of deal breakers. But you know, why would we compromise when it comes to buying our next home? It's, you know, it's the biggest purchase any of us ever make, isn't it? And hopefully you're going to live there for, I mean, I hope I live in my next place for 25, 30 years and then go into sheltered accommodation because I'll be an old lady. But yeah, it's a big deal. So yeah, why compromise? Hold out for what you want. And it took me ages. It took me a long time. But yeah, it's all good. Right. I'm now feeling shivery. I'm actually feeling positively shivery. I think I need to go into the living room. I was going to say do some jumping jacks. I ain't jumping. I can do some jumping jacks from my chair. Get myself warmed up. It isn't that cold. It is not cold at all in the UK at the moment. It's chilly. It's appropriate for the time of year. But the damp, this head cold I've got, whatever's going on, I think it's just making me feel it. Just need to go put another layer on. Alright my lovelies, gosh, there was all sorts of other stuff I was going to chat about today, but I think I've been going on long enough and this is now starting to hurt. So I'm going to call it a day there and catch up with you again before too long. I want to talk about that Second World War homemaking thing I was mentioning the other day, but that can wait. I'm going to, before I lose all my energy, I'm going to crack into this lot of cooking and yeah, just keep feeding myself really well in the hopes that it helps me to feel much, much better very soon. All right, lovelies, lots of love to you all. I will see you before too long. In the meantime, happy house hunting for those of you who are in that process. Happy cooking. Happy exploring new recipes, happy winter food. We're kind of getting into winter food territory, aren't we? That lovely, warm, filling, hearty stuff that even looking at a bowl full of it starts to make us feel good, doesn't it? Happy whatever you're doing. Cheerio, lovelies.